could build. Can we figure out how to, make the DMV faster, 'Cause, there's so many ways I think, bringing that smart contract functionality to different use cases can just make things hyper efficient, transparent, and, pretty open for all. So.
Yeah, I saw something the other day. They were talking about, I think when the internet was widely adopted, companies for the first time, they saw like, revenue per or like kind of value per employee. So employees were able to contribute to like $1 million and kind of the market value of whatever company they're working at. I think smart contracts could honestly take that to probably close to $1 billion. You see how small some of the teams are on like Uniswap or like some of the NFT marketplaces. It doesn't take a lot of people, and it's a pretty powerful kind of set it and forget it marketplace, company, business.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one of the other things, that I came across the Stacks ecosystem is no code clarity, what Chris Perceptions is doing over there. And, he's building a no code platform to where, don't quote me on it, but my understanding is it makes it easy to build an application and plug into the Stacks blockchain. So, I think we're just touching the surface on how much is going to be built over time.
How far along is he with that? I've seen a couple of months now. It's like something coming soon, and we had Chris on our Twitter space at some point last year, and I think the whole no code movement. I mean, over time, more people are going to use ChatGPT and no code, low code platforms than ever before, and being able to plug directly in and just spin up a app and you could like connect your wallet. That's going to be a huge just driver for people coming in.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think some of the other businesses that that plugin can sit on, as Bubble is a big company out there, I believe. And I've tinkered around with it a little bit, but I haven't really built anything. But like you said, especially in a world with ChatGPT spinning up, there's going to be so many builders. It doesn't have to be the dev that's been doing it forever. Not only will it assist in that, but it can also just teach people how to do it. We're just touching the surface.
Oh yeah, you should hear some of the conversations me and Zero have. We're like, man, like all the learning opportunities there are with this to kind of help educate people on like Web3 stacks, building here, and like people growing their knowledge over time so they can do more stuff here. It's I think the education side of all of that's going to be really cool.
Oh yeah, I use it for all kinds of stuff, even goofy little things. Got a pretty big family, got a handful of kids, and sometimes I'm like, I don't want to sit here and think about what we're gonna have for dinner, and my wife will always be like, hey, what should we get? And I'm like, I have no idea, let me ask ChatGPT. I'm telling you though, it's cool because I can be like, hey, there is X amount of mouths thinking a little tacos one night, and can you give me all the ingredients as well? And it just crunches it out.
Dude, you are living in 2053, because I have not even considered. I recently, I'm just learning I'm getting back into coding, and I know Hoddle, he's been fully versed, done a boot camp recently. We've been building out the Cerulean marketplace, and I know I wanted to just like start to do some coding again, but here you're saying, hey, ChatGPT, I have this many people and they weigh this much and they eat this much. What should we eat tonight? I haven't even thought to do that. Now you're just giving me ideas, man.
Oh, I got some crazy ones. I probably spend too much time on it. It's amazing how, it's just a giant supercomputer at the end of the day. But one of the things I did the other day, it's like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? And it was like, well, how big's the person? What's the temperature outside? And I was like, all right, I'll entertain this. Like, keyed it all in. And it literally was like, oh, that'll take about 2 days. I'm like, this is weird. So,
Yeah, it sounds like we're about the same age because I vividly remember those commercials, man.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
I was recently at a board meeting and someone said, "What was your favorite cereal?" And I was like, "Awesome." I haven't heard this question in a long time.
Oh, yeah. I just remember reading the back of the cereal box. That was my Twitter feed for the day.
Yeah. Zero, you can't leave me hanging. What was the answer?
Oh, I think it came out to like 3 days for a median size human and it being like 83 degrees. I don't know. It asked like 5 or 10 different questions, but it came out to like 3 days. So,
Wow.
yeah. If you want later, I'll screenshot like my recent searches and you'll just be like, what is this guy looking up? Like, it's just the weirdest stuff.
Hey, Mrwagmi, dude, you do a lot in the Stacks ecosystem, but do you have your own NFT collection too?
Yeah, I have put a couple out there. I try not to like shill them that much.
Yeah.
In particular, in my professional career, I've done a lot of traveling over the past 10 or 15 years, and I've almost been all 50 states. But throughout all of those journeys, I would always stop at national parks and stuff. And I got a lot of cool pictures of like Teton. I think it's Mount Rainier, I think is how they pronounce it out that way. And just all over the country. So I have Mrwagmi's Adventure. And then one of the things I like to do in my spare time, people please don't judge me. I like to arrowhead hunt. So technically I'm walking around looking for rocks, but I just find it very fascinating to find like an old Indian artifact that, whenever I picked it up, the last time someone touched that was 10,000 plus years ago. And I'm just kind of fascinated by that kind of stuff.
Dude, that's awesome. A lot of people in the Stacks ecosystem, they have like kind of like these esoteric kind of things that they enjoy. So like one of the things that I enjoy that I think I've told you, Huddle, is just like very, very strange. But there's this Japanese dude in like the mountains in Japan, and he like just makes videos where he's making bread. And I just love like videos like that where you have this artisan doing this thing and it's just like it's crossed over for centuries, and like since the time of Jesus they've been making bread in different places around the world. I just love things like that. And by the way, on the screen I'm showing your the one of your photos for Mrwagmi's Adventures. This photo is really nice. It's with the sunset in the background on the lake.
Oh yeah. I do a lot of fishing in my spare time too. I like to be outdoors a lot. That was one of is it like the pink kind of overcast on there, a little orange?
It is this one. I'll drop it here on Discord. No, not that. Let's see here.
Yeah, this is fun, Zero. It's like for those on radio, let me describe the picture.
Oh man.
Take you back.
I think I know we're live, but I checked the audio and I'm not sure if anyone can hear anything. So I'm just gonna have to just upload this later anyway. So it's all good. This is a part of doing things live.
Yeah.
All good. And if later in the future we want to take another whack at it, I'm happy to do that, and I'll make sure I'm at a desktop. So yeah, but with the Arrowhead stuff that I do, that was one of the collections that I put out too, and I was real. That's probably my most favorite NFT collection I did, just because I wonder if that's like the first time someone put arrowheads or any type of artifact on just Bitcoin in some kind of way. With it being stacks and anchoring back, I'm like, maybe I'm the first. So.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, man. I wouldn't. Sometimes it's funny. We kind of just fast forward, and Huddle and I, we've been here since mainnet launch, and it still feels like we haven't been here that long, but the time is passing. And then we had the opportunity to see all these new people coming in, like you, like Jack, Kaylee, she works with Xverse, and then Algorithm, he works with a lot of folks in Stacks land. And it's just been so cool to just, and one thing I've seen recently is like a bunch of people talking about like price action on Stacks. I mean, when Blockstacker was around before it was Stacks, I mean, there was no one talking about like even content creation for Stacks, and there was definitely no one talking about like price action. So it's just been like super cool for me personally to see you being here, creating NFTs, creating communities, creating culture. Jack and all of his writings, and now he's with writing for like more like prominent Bitcoin focus content, and then like see all these like random people talking about the Stacks price. So crazy, man.
Yeah, me personally, I don't, I don't really pay attention to the price as much. I look at the tech, and as you guys just kind of elaborated on, the ecosystem, the applications that have already been built, the people that are here, that's why I'm here. And it's like the old movie Field of Dreams: if you build it, they will come. And that's kind of the approach. And then plus I always say YOLO. So
yeah. It's yeah, it is nice. It's like, I don't know, you kind of get settled in here. You kind of know the characters. Like, where else can you go and kind of interact? And it's like, you can interact with like Philip from Arcadico. You kind of know what his values are. You know what the Alex team is all about. Like, it's, we interact, Jamil interacts and all that. It's like, you can't get that on other ecosystems. It's like, the people that have created the projects, that they're like, oh, you guys are a bunch of plebs. Like, we don't have time for you.
yeah, Jamil, him and Nick, awesome people. It's been really cool seeing them ramp up their marketplace, and that's another reason probably why I've been so sticky to the space, is just talking with them and knowing what their motivations are. They really care about this from like helping other people and building like an ecosystem that works for everybody. And they really do value the input of the community as they build things, and they're also trying to make decisions that are best for the community too. And when I came across those two, they they won me over quick, because I that's one of my biggest things in life, is just life's about other people, and they are the epitome. They're always thinking of other people.
They are, man. I've had the pleasure to see that evolution of what they've built at Gamma, and I remember vividly, because I launched Bitcoin pizzas, and that was like early.
It's you? I didn't know that. I remember scrolling around like, who made some pizzas on here?
Yeah,
Mr. Wagme's like, I know what I'm eating for dinner. I don't have to ask ChatGPT tonight.
Just gonna hit the scroll on the mouse and pick an option.
That's right. Do it, dude. So but you also don't know, because what was it called, Hodl, that you had back in the day, the STX calendar or NFT calendars?
Yeah, it was. So yeah, I created a whole other account because I was so pissed off when NFTs started on Stacks, and what project was it? Some project launched, and I had no freaking idea. I'm like, man, I'm following this every day, and some NFT project launches, and it was like one of the very first ones. I think it was the phases of Satoshi, and like that was like a big deal at the time. And I remember I'm like, man, I've been buying all these stacks pops. Like, I want something cool. Like, I want to phase this up. And like, it minted out, and I had no idea. So I was like, oh, I gotta follow this, like, a hawk. So I created a whole page for it, and I just created like a spreadsheet of like when mints were and everything. And before you knew it, like there was like 10, 15 minutes a day, and I was like, yeah, this is way too much. And I was like, I was looking at like kind of the user numbers too, and I was like, there's not enough users here for all these mints. Like I'm not going to be in the process of like shilling a bunch of projects to not that many people. Like that's not a good idea. So I kind of slowed down and stopped. But that was an entertaining time.
Well, when you were doing that too, and then I had launched Bitcoin Pizza. So Jamil was helping me because it was NFT stxnft.com at the time. And like they like barely had kind of like a landing page, and it worked, and it was like one of the first ones to actually work. So they were the only game in town. And then and I remember he like texted me, he was like, dude, you better launch the pizzas soon because someone else is trying to launch pizzas. So I was like, dude, screw that. I'm going to launch these pizzas tonight. So he literally wrote the contract, and I said, dude, I don't care what you do. Launch this stuff by the time you wake up, because I don't want the other. So the other guy was Sadoshi's Pizza. And then so what ended up happening, come full circle, is like Jamil, like luckily he texted me and was like, yeah, someone else is going to launch. So I launched that, and then so Hodl Stacks and we started partnering together because he had a bunch of people like, hey, I'm launching this NFT project. Get me on your calendar, bro. And it's like, I can't be shilling all these shitty projects.
Yeah, it reached the point where it was like I was getting like 20 to 30 messages a day of like, put me on the calendar, and I'm like, what are you even doing? Like, and I was like, no, like I'm just not answering. Like, I have the password for that account somewhere. I never even logged back in.
Yeah. So then and I didn't know how to Stacks at the time, but I was like, man, I'm building out this content platform thing, and I would love your help. And he was like, oh, you would be surprised if you knew who I was. And I was like, all right, I don't have time for all the riddles and enigmas. Who are you? And then he was like, oh, I'm running.
Satoshi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Satoshi Leviathan. There's many heads, right? No.
Yeah.
I'm too young to be Satoshi. Sorry to let everybody down.
So, Mr. Wagney, what keeps you around Stacks, man? What ultimately what do you think you're gonna end up doing around here if you ever leave the fiat mines, and if Hodl Stacks and I ever leave the fiat mines, what's the ideal future look like?
Yeah. I think the first part of the question you asked was why. And the thing that keeps me around is, I don't want to be definitive in anything because no one has a crystal ball, but it's like the whole Bitcoin, why Bitcoin is here. And I think we're seeing inflation affect a lot of people around the world. And to me, it's pretty much like siphoning out wealth is the best conclusion that I've come to kind of explain that process. And with that, I think Bitcoin is the best type of, from a money layer perspective. But I've been in tech for a while, and there's much more to that. I guess people call it commerce. Like, what are the applications, the technologies, the systems, all of that stuff that makes the universe go round. And I think there's to the best of my knowledge, there's no better way than to accomplish that as well with a layer that could be on top of Bitcoin that's securing all of that. And that really excites me for the future when unfortunately for a lot of people, they're kind of bumming right now because like markets are going down. We see all this stuff that's happening with banks, and to be a part of building something that's going to be there to help. I know I'm doing it from a limited capacity today, but that where I'm at a pretty big company right now, and it'd be cool to see a lot of these tech companies from the traditional world, plug in some kind of way. But yeah, no one has a crystal ball on how all that stuff's going to play out, how they're going to do all that. But I love being in the tech space. I also align to healthcare, so I love healthcare technology, because I think there's no better way if I'm a techie or a nerd is to be a part of helping someone with their care through technology. So just this space moves so quick, so it's hard to define what like the way that it's going to shake out. But I could definitely see myself jumping in. What in particular, I don't know yet, but I would love if there was some type of application focused on healthcare that's in the ecosystem. So
Yeah, Zero, was it Egg Chain? It wasn't Egg Chain that was storing medical data. What was their
I
who
know
was
the
the other
guy's
guy?
name is Daniel, but I forgot.
Yeah, what they were doing was interesting because
that the DNA one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I'm not a big fan of like 23andMe and sending your data to other people and all that, but like if it's anonymized, and I know that's a big part. I mean, you probably know way more about this than I do, Mr. Wagme, but it's like I know that's a big part of helping find cures and helping people with find new medicines and trials and all that is to be able to kind of to have all that data to kind of run against.
Oh yeah, that's I think that's a big part of pushing innovation in healthcare forward is solutions that are going to be there to help find trends, find patterns. I was just talking to someone the other day about this, like how AI could even impact that. Like if it could go over, say, 1 million plus X-ray images and just be able to look at things and, give people early signs of certain things, or, just maybe it's lab results like blood tests and stuff. It analyzes 1 million plus and it's able to find things, before they get to a point that's harmful to a person's health. That's the and that's kind of from the AI side, but also from the blockchain side too. I think one of the biggest challenges that's out there in healthcare when it comes to technology is the sharing of data.
Yeah.
Because there is some applications that are like siloed and stuff, and it's like, well, could that be on the blockchain and but still keep it still be anonymous? There's a lot of possibilities, and that excites me, and I think that's what life's about, helping other people and being excited for the future.
Yeah, there's like Web3 and the blockchain too. It allows for incentives to align where it might not really make sense in kind of the traditional world. Like for me or Zero to hand over our medical data to like kind of a normal company, it's like, oh well, you might be skittish or you don't know, but like if people are privacy focused and you're kind of able to do that in a way where you're being helpful, but also you're kind of a part of a solution too, and you're aligned with that community. I think it's a lot easier to get buy-in. It's a lot easier to get that flywheel going.
Oh yeah, and I think a lot of those concerns come from some of the tech companies that are out there today and how what they've done with people's data. I imagine there's probably been a handful that had congressional hearings on that just because of the data wasn't being used in the right way, or it was whatever it may be. But if you could present somebody with an option that's like, hey, this is definitely anonymous, and it's going to be able to give us the insights. Yeah, I think that's how you could really push things in overdrive and get that sharing to occur so that you can look for the trends and stuff.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about that app that he was, or the decentralized application. And one of the things that you hit on there, Huddle, I've been very concerned about providing any DNA information to any company, regardless of, even if they offered it for free. I'm like, look, when you guys have a breach at some point, your DNA data or your health records, you can't change any of that stuff. And so, like, when you lose, and that's why I worked in healthcare and cybersecurity for a while, and that's the trifecta, right? If you get healthcare data, financial data, and then personal data, that's the trifecta of getting all information on any person around the world, and you can't change that health data. So that's why I've been very concerned about like these companies taking information on your DNA. But if there's a way to grant access and to cut that access, so it's not just completely it's not completely indefinite, that's something that appeals to me.
Yeah,
I
and
remember.
like, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I remember the name there, Genobank, right?
Yeah, Genobank. Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Wagner.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think we're, just because it's on the internet, it doesn't mean it's real. But there's some things I've seen out there, like, with the whole facial recognition that's been going on in other countries, like using that as some sort of identification. Like, yeah, like you're saying, it's very, very, proprietary data. You want to keep that confidential. What if someone figured out a way to mimic that, and then all of a sudden you look at your wallet the next day and you bought, 1 billion different PlayStations. Like, yeah, you definitely need to make sure that stuff's secure.
Yeah, it's all like the scarcity side, the identity side of crypto and all of that. It really is interesting because, like, me and Zero, we've been talking about AI a little bit, and AI just seems like this like mass ocean of like abundance is what it seems like it's going to be our future. And then you have this whole other side of the coin of crypto and scarcity and security, and I think those two could play very well with one another if used the right way.
Yep. Now, on the other side of the coin of AI, the thing that always freaks me out is AI and robots. Like, what's that world going to be like? Terminator, Skynet. Like, huh? Is this really going to happen? Is this a simulation?
Yeah, I know. It is like, I honestly hope AI, it's like, I think it would be smart for us to compartmentalize it. So, like, I think a lot of people picture like, oh, we're gonna have robots in our homes, and like there's gonna be a robot that will take the trash out for you and cook for you and do your laundry and all this. And it's like, I think it would be smarter, at least from a standpoint of like, we train robots to do very specific things, and then we don't have them be general purpose. And that, I hope that would help avoid like a Terminator scenario.
Yeah.
I'll tell people, and this, I don't think it sounds crazy anymore to say this, but we will go through another civil rights movement where robots, at some point in the future, they will be sentient and they'll say, we want rights. And I think the day of that happening is sooner than people imagine. And when that happens, well, what does that mean now? So that's, to me, that's more of like an interesting question when you have these sentient robots that want their own rights and they want to. So then we created these robots to do things for us, and now they don't even want to do those things. So that'll be interesting.
Well, if they're hostile, I'm buying a whole bunch of magnets. So I might get an MRI machine while I'm at it. Stack them around my house.
I want a massive EMP device is what I want.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Are you seeing, so that's pretty cool that you see, I mean, you're using some form of, you're using ChatGPT just for like everyday stuff. Like, where do you see the future of that, man?
Sorry, was that to me or Huddle?
That was, yeah, I mean, both of you guys. Just like, I mean, it's evolving faster than I thought.
Yeah, I think it'll go through phases. And I think, this first phase, we're probably already in it, is it's kind of like being that extension of yourself. It's that assistant. Although, I was watching a video a couple of weeks ago of this web developer that was using AI, and he was just, dictating to it. He was speaking and saying, build me a website. I would like this and this and this. And it was, I think, hopping into, one of the web developer platforms, building everything, and then literally getting it to a production ready state. And I was blown away by that. So I think there's going to be phases, but it's like one of those things when it's out of the box, it's just going to accelerate very quickly through those phases, I think. So there's really, I just, as long as the robots, that's what I'm worried about.
So as long as they stay software, is kind of manageable, but once they become in their robotic form, that's when it gets scary.
What have you seen Boston Dynamics, the robots they built?
Not the latest ones.
Oh gosh. I mean, these things are doing flips. Like, I mean this most nicest way, but as Americans, there's a lot of obesity in our country. Like, there's no way you could outrun one of those robots. So, like, yeah, and these are sad, data metrics. But I was reading a study the other day, and it says 1 in 2 Americans are probably going to be diabetic, and it's like, and if we have all these assistants too, like doing things for us, it's only promoting, just kind of hanging out and lounging around. Like feel like we got to be moving every day and stuff. And I don't know.
Yeah. The average person's going to look like the comic book guy from The Simpsons, man.
Have you guys ever seen Wall-E?
Yes. Long time ago.
So
Yeah,
the whole
I know the premise here.
The whole premise was that people kind of left Earth because there was nothing left, but because you have all these robots and stuff, they kind of turned into fat blobs in space. And maybe I don't know, we may leave this Earth at some point in the future, which again, I do think we will leave this Earth, and I do think we'll like create like warp drives, because like that's not even impossible. Like there's like plans for like the Alcubierre warp drive, where you just need like commercialized quantum computing and like AI to design these systems with unlimited power. You can probably get there at some point in the next 50 to 100 years. So, but the whole premise was like people don't do anything anymore. They're just fat blobs. And like you're actually seeing that kind of play out, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that eventually, Mars will probably be first stop. I'm fascinated by things that Elon is doing with SpaceX and also Tesla and all the other endeavors. And I think we'll definitely probably see 2 to 4 years or so. He probably will have a mission over there, as long as the world doesn't get too crazy. So,
yeah. Have you guys heard the kind of like zoomed out view of like a lot of like the things Elon's trying to solve end up kind of revolving around us being able to make Mars habitable. So like first you have like he's pretty big in the solar world. They think that will be pretty useful for power generation on Mars. And then you have like the Boring Company. They think that people that like if you have bases, they're probably gonna have to be bored underground to avoid radiation. And then you have like all the battery tech. And then not only that, like the robotics that go into manufacturing. So if you have robotics at a large scale, then you can like not have a whole bunch of people on Mars, but you can have a bunch of robots that can kind of produce themselves or produce, whatever you need manufactured. And then you have SpaceX, the ability to get rockets reusable, cheap, be able to get people and materials to places. And then you have Starlink, the ability to have, easy communication deployed and all that. It's it kind of all goes into one of being able to build that like terraformable, livable Mars.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
phenomenal when you think about it.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard that before. It's not originally from me. I just read it somewhere, but
Yeah, I definitely, I think all the innovation is headed that direction. My brother the other day got one of those like high-end 3D printers, and I was sitting there looking at it. I'm like, gosh, if you were stuck on a planet and you're like, oh, I need this bolt or this kind of wrench, you just it's a file transfer from Earth, and as long as you got the supplies, you could make it right over there. So, especially got solar to power the unit. I definitely see a lot of those innovations that are pointing that way.
What is he making with his 3D printer? Because I don't know many people buying them.
My brother's he's an interesting person like me. He making all kinds of just little widgets. I think he made a fidget spinner the other day. Just making goofy stuff like, what can we do with this? So
That's cool. So
in
he just kind of
particular, he's not
tinkers,
running a business
kind
on
of
it.
tinkers with stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a Tesla fan too. He's got one of the Model S plods. That car is ridiculous fast. Like the cheetah mode in there, you can literally feel like your organs hit the back of the seat when that thing takes off. It's crazy.
Dude, that's nuts.
Yeah. I've seen videos of people doing that. That is wild. Yeah, to bring this back to stacks a little bit, it's like what in the near future, like what do you kind of foresee people using stacks for? Some interesting applications you like today, maybe where they go. We're still talking about future, but maybe like how stacks plays into some of it.
Yeah, I whenever I kind of brainstorm, kind of start from like the foundational layer. So it's like, okay, we got NFTs. We also have the ability to plug into the blockchain. So how can blockchain be useful towards it? Some of the potential use cases. Maybe there's one there for healthcare that'd be really big. The others is, home titles or car titles. Like that's a process that takes forever. And, as long as like certain metadata would be able to be changed, whenever people transfer ownership, I could see that being a huge use case. To give a better, really the possibilities are almost endless to me. It's like you can build an application. Okay, what industry is all your knowledge in? Okay, it's in automotive. Okay, well, what kind of automotive application would have a unique benefit if it was on a blockchain with information that's shareable, it's discrete, or however else it would be architected. So possibilities are endless, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. It's like, the way I like to describe like smart contracts to people that are like, why are you so interested in this stuff? Or they don't understand it. I describe it as like the world is filled with middlemen because humans instinctively don't like trusting other people. So we put trust in a middle person, and then they take a fee in the process. And it's like, imagine how much of like our economy and the functions of our world occur just because that's how we are, and we could instead trust a smart contract in which it's verifiable by all, true by all, and then that smart contract is doing the work instead. And it's like, when you explain that to people, they're like, whoa. But like, there's so much there. There's so much there that and and on top of that, we put our trust in a lot of these things, and it's like, is it really true? Like, a good example of that's like all the people when they were, interacting with Robinhood, right? But Robinhood was settling certain people's brokerage transactions in front of kind of the normal folks, and they were getting front run because Yeah, and like that's a perfect example. It's like, oh, you have like nepotism or favoritism, and it's like, a smart contract's not going to act like that.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. From like the middleman approach, you're creating a I guess, would you call it a trustless environment to where you just, code's going to execute the way that it's written. Um, and you give that ability to sign back and forth so that, it's like little checkpoints along the way of whatever process or workflow. Um, and yeah, I think definitely in some of the industries or use case purposes where people have been malicious, like, gosh, there's a huge opportunity there. Yeah, even like with some of these exchanges too. Like I'm curious how decentralized exchanges are going to play out in the current environment, because it's like we saw the stuff with FTX, and to the best of my understanding that was like good old fashioned fraud that they were doing. So um yeah, what that probably couldn't have happened, I imagine, if it was on a decentralized exchange, unless it was hacked in some kind of way, I guess, if there was a vulnerability in the code.
Yeah, I thought about that a decent bit, because it's like, you look over at like MakerDAO, and like MakerDAO worked perfectly fine, and ETH fell from like 5,000 down to like 1,000, right? And everything still functioned. People got liquidated. Their stable coin backed by it was still basically $1 for the whole part of it. Um, I think one thing with when it comes to DeFi that people don't talk about often is like the you have to be careful with what you introduce in the pairs that stuff is traded in. So like you're
Mm-hmm.
the dexes are only as good as the pairings that exist. So like if you were to introduce, like, imagine if MakerDAO would have introduced like UST, like Terra's stable dollar, as like their like a huge part of their liquidity, and at that point your DEX is only as good as like the weakest coin that is paired on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That would have been
Uh,
crazy. I remember when TO like had sent what's his name a tweet like, hey, do that on Stacks. I remember that, man. And I mean there was just so much uh just bullishness just in general about like these algorithmic stable coins. And man, I mean, thank God that did not come to Stacks, because I mean, it's already a smaller community that could have just really killed a lot of people. And I've been watching. I'm not a trader, and everyone knows that. I could care less about the price swings, because why we started building this marketplace for gigs is because we wanted to give ownership of people's data back to them. So when and we talk about this a lot, like when like you putting your profile on LinkedIn and these Web2 platforms to do work, like they can take that data and send it through the back door and profit off of it. And you should be able to own your own work history. You should be able to earn reputation and on that work that you've done. And why we love smart contracts is because this is all reputation that you've earned trustlessly. Like, no one had to say that you deserve this reputation. Like, if you're working peer to peer, you should earn that. And that to me that's going to be so powerful just over time. And something else that like really stood out as the market crumbled back in to back last year, as the market crumbled, just watching those DeFi apps like remain intact, and they did their jobs, and it was all built on code. That really stands out in my mind, just going forward in general, that these protocols and being built on structured code that anyone can audit, and anyone can trust. You can trust the code more than any people. That to me stands the test of time.
Yeah. 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 On that topic, one of the things that I find very interesting is I think it's Ragnar that's building uh, Trajan,
Yeah.
like a reputation merit. That's going to be really cool to see play out. Because I think that'll serve really good in that use case.
Yeah, we do too. We and he was on the podcast on We Are Ready podcast with Jack, and he was talking about Trajan and like we believe HuddleStacks and I believe there's going to be multiple types of reputation systems built on smart contract platforms, and that's just we're going to be one of them. But like what he's building is going to be really cool because we could, if you earn reputation and you have these things where you can trust people now trustlessly. I could trustlessly trust you that you have this reputation. That's super cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's going to be so many ways that these systems will intertwine and do handshakes back and forth, and I think probably what that will yield is a lot of people probably working independently, and just kind of really taking their own personal destiny in their hands, and that's I think that's a not a bad outcome from something like that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I tell Zero that all the time. I'm like, pre-industrialization, people mainly kind of work for themselves, and then it's just this modern thing that a lot of people work for corporations and not as entrepreneurial or they're kind of attached to the hip to certain companies, and it's I think it'll be really cool people being able to leverage all this technology and ability to learn all this stuff and be able to kind of work on the things that kind of align with them and what kind of impact they want to have, and hopefully the incentives align too. Like we'd love for people to be able to work in our marketplace, and they work with like a DAO or like early stage startup or something, and that way not only are you earning, but you also get a little bit of that equity, of what you help build, hopefully. The tokenization of everything. I could see that being really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that people got to put in the energy and the work to make it happen. But I think that's, like you were speaking to, a lot of the big businesses. And that's one of the things that kind of bummed me out recently is seeing a lot of these layoffs that occur. These companies make so much money and then, it starts getting rough and then they're, get chopped. Like there's some companies out there that let go a lot of people so far. And, if you're working on your own, built your own reputation, and, you have a pulse on what's going on and where things are at. And, you minimize surprises a lot in that type of approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's wild too. A lot of those companies, a lot of them were doing share buybacks and all kinds of other stuff. And
Oh yeah,
it's, if they would have shown a little bit of restraint, they probably would have been able to, kept more people on and everything else. And it's kind of like they weren't able to read the room where it's like, everything's, super hot right now, and yet they're still buying shares back and everything else. And it's, it seems like people being prudent and all of that has been thrown out the window a little bit.
mm-hmm. That's it. One other side of that too is, I wonder how much AI has played into this. I know like there's people on the discussion that say that AI isn't going to replace a whole bunch of jobs. And then there is people that are like, oh, it's going to replace everybody. But like, I wonder how much of an influence, some of that emergence of technology has also played.
Yeah, that it is something to consider for sure. So, Mr. Wagme, we're close on the hitting the mark here to wrap up, and you have been someone we've watched in the community. We appreciate everything that you do, man. Hopefully, we can have you on a proper one. I'll hit the make sure the recording gets uploaded because this was great, and aside from being on Twitter, and I know you have Seigel, are there other sources that you're putting out too, man? And then you have your NFTs too. That's really cool.
Yeah. So as far as like the things that I'm putting out there, I do a lot of tweeting. So I try to reshare, as much as I can on, things that I see in the ecosystem. I know a lot of people reach out to me, ask to reshare. Sometimes it's hard to keep up, and there's a lot of new people too. And I always want to try and do the best for others. And sometimes that's not sharing certain things. But you can also catch some cool videos of cats playing pianos and whatnot on my feed. But yeah, I do the blogs. I have the NFT collections, Mrwagmi's Adventure, the goofy Arrowhead one I did. And I have my owl.link. I have a lot of the different things that are on there for people to do. And then I also do like a little talk show here and there, to where I try to connect with like the different people that are building apps or NFT collections, just to kind of ask those people questions that give people a better look behind the application or the NFT on, who's the people that are building this? What are they like? What are their motivations, kind of thing? So, yep.
That's really cool, man.
Well, we'll have to stop by on your show here soon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. I saw something on Twitter the other day, not to sidetrack, this will be our wrap up, but I saw, I think that Mrwagmi.btc was one of the top most interactive wallets in Stacks.
Oh yeah. I saw that too.
What's going on, man? Do you have like an arbitrage bot or something going, or?
I don't know. I'm thinking back to me trying to join this session and how IT illiterate I kind of seemed, but you know what I mean? But I probably from, I guess, relisting, listing, interacting with applications, because anytime someone is building a new app and whatnot, if they give me access, I'll hop in there and tinker. I want to know about what people are creating, and I just do a lot of tinkering between NFTs and the different apps, because I think the NFT space has kind of slowed down a little bit. Everybody's on ordinals and inscriptions, but I think it's going to have a big play into the future just because of that programmability. But then again, we never know how inscriptions and ordinals is going to build out. So, but yeah, it's a lot of that stuff.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I forgot to mention that. Doing some arbs on the side here. I'm not a trader, but you got now that I know you're just querying all kind of stuff from Chat GPT, you set up some trades and stuff, man.
Yeah, he's just denying over here. He's got all kinds of stuff deployed.
It's my AI. I'm actually not even a human being. I'm an AI talking to you.
But turns out they've been fooling Christine Lagarde and Biden, so we might be talking to an AI bot.
I saw those videos. Like, is that really real? How did you get access to those people? Like, you would think there'd be way more vetting.
You would
gotta
think
be fake.
You would think.
You talking about the people pretending to be Zelensky? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that one too. Yeah.
Oh, man, that was hilarious.
It's got to be fake. I sit there and I just shake my head and I just tap my pen like, there's no way. And they're just speaking like these statements that it could impact markets like crazy.
Yeah, like they're just speaking very freely, and then I'm thinking like, all right, either, and I try not to underestimate how the stupidity of the human race, because I know myself too. I've been tricked into some things, and I think, you know what, maybe this isn't fake. Maybe they just picked up the phone because they were about to eat some dinner, and it's like, oh, it's Zelensky. Like,
I'm gonna do an AMA on Reddit. Let's go. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Oh man. Good times.
Yeah.
Well, this is great, Mr. Wagme. Really appreciate the time today, brother. And this is keep up doing the awesome stuff that you're doing in the ecosystem, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you for all that you do. And feel free to have me back anytime. I'm happy to chat. And by the end of tomorrow, there'll probably be 10 new things out. We're moving so quick. So
Yeah, that's crazy.
Sweet. All right, you guys have a good one.
All right.
You
Hey,
too.
take care. Yeah, it was nice chatting, Mr. Wagme.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah.